The legend Achilles. Achilles, one of the most famous heroes in Greek mythology, was born to Peleus, a mortal king, and Thetis, a sea nymph. His story begins with a mix of the divine and the mortal, setting the stage for a life filled with extraordinary feats and tragic flaws. Thetis, being a goddess, wanted the best for her son. She knew that, as the child of a mortal man, Achilles would face the limitations of human life, including death. Determined to protect him, she sought to make him immortal. Thetis took her newborn son to the river Styx, a mystical river in the underworld known for its powers of invincibility. The waters of the Styx were said to grant anyone who was fully submerged in them protection from harm. Holding Achilles by his heel, Thetis dipped him into the river. The magical waters touched every part of his body except the one spot where her fingers gripped him, his heel. This small, untouched area became his only vulnerability, a hidden weakness in an otherwise invincible body. This moment would later define Achilles' fate and give rise to the term Achilles' heel, symbolizing a person's single point of weakness, no matter how strong they may seem. As Achilles grew, his mother continued to watch over him, knowing that his destiny was tied to both greatness and tragedy. Thetis was deeply aware of a prophecy that foretold Achilles would either live a long, uneventful life or die young but achieve eternal glory. Wanting to protect him from an early death, she took drastic measures. When the Trojan War loomed, Thetis disguised Achilles as a girl and sent him to live among the daughters of King Lycomedes on the island of Cyrus. She hoped this would keep him hidden from the war and the fate that awaited him. However, destiny has a way of finding its path. Odysseus, the clever Greek hero, eventually discovered Achilles' hiding place. Disguised as a merchant, Odysseus laid out a variety of gifts, including weapons, among the items for the girls. While the others admired the trinkets, Achilles instinctively reached for the sword, revealing his true identity. Recognizing his potential, Odysseus convinced Achilles to join the Greek forces in the Trojan War, setting him on the path to his legendary but tragic destiny. Achilles' early life was marked by his mother's love and her desperate attempts to shield him from harm. Yet, despite her efforts, his mortal nature and the prophecy surrounding him could not be avoided. His story is a blend of divine intervention and human vulnerability, a reminder that even the greatest heroes have their weaknesses. The tale of Achilles' birth and early years not only highlights his extraordinary origins, but also sets the stage for the epic adventures and heart-wrenching choices that would define his life. Chiron, the centaur, was renowned for his wisdom and knowledge of the arts of war and medicine. Unlike other centaurs, who were often depicted as wild and unruly, Chiron was a figure of intellect and discipline. He was sought after by many Greek heroes for his ability to teach and mentor. When Achilles was entrusted to him, Chiron recognized the boy's potential and took it upon himself to train him in the ways of a warrior. Under Chiron's guidance, Achilles learned not only how to wield weapons and fight with precision, but also how to heal wounds and understand the human body. This dual training in war and medicine made Achilles a unique figure among his peers. He was a thinker, a strategist, and a healer. Chiron's teachings went beyond physical prowess. They instilled in Achilles a sense of responsibility and an understanding of the consequences of his actions. The prophecy, a choice between glory and longevity. From a young age, Achilles was aware of the prophecy that loomed over his life. It was foretold that he would face a choice: to live a long, peaceful life without achieving great fame, or to die young but earn eternal glory. This prophecy shaped his decisions and actions, as he was determined to leave a mark on the world that would be remembered for generations. The weight of this prophecy was not lost on Achilles. It was a constant reminder of the fleeting nature of life and the importance of making every moment count. While others might have been deterred by the prospect of an early death, Achilles embraced it. He saw glory not as a fleeting reward, but as a lasting legacy that would outlive him. This mindset drove him to excel in his training and to seek out opportunities to prove himself. The origins of the Trojan War. The roots of the Trojan War can be traced back to a divine dispute. Eris, the goddess of discord, was not invited to the wedding of Peleus and Thetis, the parents of Achilles. In retaliation, she threw a golden apple inscribed with the words, "To the fairest among the goddesses." Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite each claimed the apple, and Zeus, unwilling to decide, appointed Paris, a prince of Troy, to judge who was the most beautiful. Paris was living as a shepherd on Mount Ida, having been abandoned at birth due to a prophecy that he would bring about the destruction of Troy. The three goddesses offered in bribes. Hera promised power, Athena offered wisdom and military prowess, and Aphrodite promised the love of the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris chose Aphrodite, and in doing so, he set in motion the events that would lead to the Trojan War. The most beautiful woman in the world was Helen, the wife of Menelaus, king of Sparta. With Aphrodite's help, Paris traveled to Sparta, where he was welcomed as a guest. However, he betrayed Menelaus's hospitality by abducting Helen and taking her back to Troy. This act of treachery and violation of the sacred bond between host and guest enraged Menelaus, who called upon the other Greek kings to honor their oaths and join him in retrieving Helen. The siege of Troy. The Greek fleet, consisting of over 1,000 ships, set sail for Troy. However, their journey was fraught with difficulties. They mistakenly landed in Mysia, where they fought a battle with King Telephus, who later guided them to Troy. Upon arriving at Troy, the Greeks demanded the return of Helen, but the Trojans refused. Thus began a protracted siege that would last for 10 years. The war was marked by numerous battles, duels, and acts of heroism. Achilles quickly established himself as the Greeks' most formidable warrior, leading his Myrmidons with unmatched skill and ferocity. However, the war also saw moments of tension and conflict within the Greek camp. Agamemnon, the commander-in-chief, often clashed with Achilles, whose pride and sense of honor made him resistant to authority. The rage of Achilles. The Iliad begins with the word rage, setting the tone for the entire epic. Achilles' wrath is the driving force behind the narrative, and its origins lie in a dispute with Agamemnon, the leader of the Greek forces. The conflict arises after the Greeks capture the city of Chryse, where Agamemnon takes Chryse, the daughter of a priest of Apollo, as his war prize. When her father pleads for her return, offering a generous ransom, Agamemnon refuses. The priest prays to Apollo, who responds by sending a plague upon the Greek camp, decimating their ranks. Desperate to end the plague, the Greeks consult the prophet Calchas, who reveals that Apollo's anger will only be appeased if Chryse is returned to her father. Agamemnon reluctantly agrees but demands compensation for his loss. He insists on taking Briseis, Achilles' war prize, as his own. This act is not merely a matter of material loss for Achilles. It is a profound insult to his honor and status as a warrior. In the hierarchical world of the Greeks, a warrior's prizes are a reflection of his worth and glory. By taking Briseis, Agamemnon publicly humiliates Achilles. Furious and deeply wounded, Achilles withdraws from the battle, vowing not to fight for the Greeks until Agamemnon apologizes and restores his honor. He even prays to his mother Thetis to intervene on his behalf. Thetis, a sea nymph, persuades Zeus to grant the Trojans temporary success in battle, ensuring that the Greeks will suffer without Achilles. This divine intervention sets the stage for the Greeks' struggles and the eventual tragedy that unfolds. Intervention sets the stage for the Greeks' struggles and the eventual tragedy that unfolds. The consequences of Achilles' withdrawal. Achilles' absence from the battlefield has immediate and devastating consequences for the Greek forces. Without their greatest warrior, the Greeks are unable to withstand the Trojans, led by Hector, the eldest son of King Priam, and Troy's mightiest champion. The Trojans gain the upper hand, pushing the Greeks back to their ships and threatening to burn them. The Greeks, demoralized and desperate, plead with Achilles to return, but he remains steadfast in his refusal. The situation grows increasingly dire. Agamemnon, realizing the gravity of his mistake, sends an embassy to Achilles, offering lavish gifts, including the return of Briseis, as well as gold horses, and even the hand of one of his daughters in marriage. However, Achilles rejects the offer, declaring that no amount of wealth can compensate for the insult to his honor. He reveals that he has been given a choice by his mother: a long, uneventful life if he returns home, or a short, glorious life if he remains at Troy. Achilles' pride and anger have hardened his heart, and he chooses to stay but refuses to fight. The death of Patroclus. As the Greeks face imminent defeat, Patroclus, Achilles' closest companion and dearest friend, becomes the catalyst for change. Patroclus is deeply troubled by the suffering of the Greek soldiers and the destruction of their ships. He begs Achilles to allow him to wear his armor and lead the Myrmidons, Achilles' loyal warriors, into battle. Achilles reluctantly agrees, but warns Patroclus to only defend the ships and not pursue the Trojans further. Patroclus dons Achilles' armor and enters the fray, inspiring the Greeks with his presence. The Trojans, mistaking him for Achilles, are thrown into disarray. Patroclus fights valiantly, driving the Trojans back from the ships and saving the Greek camp. However, in the heat of battle, he ignores Achilles' warning and pursues the fleeing Trojans to the walls of Troy. There, he encounters Hector, who kills him with the help of Apollo. Hector strips Patroclus of Achilles' armor, claiming it as a trophy, and the battle rages over his body. Achilles' grief and vengeance. The news of Patroclus' death shatters Achilles. Overcome with grief and guilt, he is consumed by a desire for vengeance. His rage, once directed at Agamemnon, is now focused entirely on Hector and the Trojans. Achilles' mother, Thetis, visits him and urges him to reconsider his choices. She tells him that if he kills Hector, his own death will soon follow, as it is foretold by fate. Achilles, however, is willing to accept this fate, declaring that he would rather die than live without avenging Patroclus. Thetis commissions the god Hephaestus to forge new armor for Achilles, including a magnificent shield depicting scenes of human life, war, and peace. Armed with this divine armor, Achilles returns to the battlefield, his presence alone enough to strike fear into the hearts of the Trojans. He slaughters countless Trojans, filling the river's commander with their bodies and even fighting the river god himself in a surreal and violent confrontation. The duel with Hector. Achilles' ultimate goal is to confront Hector, the man who killed Patroclus and took his armor. Hector, realizing that he cannot escape his fate, stands his ground and faces Achilles outside the walls of Troy. The two warriors engage in a dramatic duel, with Achilles' rage and skill proving too much for Hector. Achilles strikes Hector a fatal blow, and with his dying breath, Hector begs Achilles to return his body to his family for a proper burial. Achilles, consumed by hatred, refuses and drags Hector's body behind his chariot, defiling it in a brutal act of vengeance. The return of Hector's body. Achilles' mistreatment of Hector's body angered the gods, particularly Apollo, who protects the Trojans. Zeus intervenes, sending Thetis to persuade Achilles to return the body to Priam, Hector's father. Priam, guided by the god Hermes, ventures into the Greek camp at night to plead with Achilles. The old king's courage and sorrow move Achilles, who is reminded of his own father and the inevitability of death. In a moment of profound humanity, Achilles agrees to return Hector's body and grants the Trojans a temporary truce to mourn their fallen hero. The aftermath of Hector's death. The death of Hector, the Trojan prince and champion, at the hands of Achilles, is a pivotal moment in the Trojan War. After avenging the death of his beloved, companion Patroclus. Achilles' rage begins to subside, but his actions have far-reaching consequences. The Trojans, devastated by the loss of their greatest defender, are demoralized, while the Greeks, emboldened by Achilles' triumph, press their advantage. However, Achilles' victory over Hector also seals his own fate. The gods, particularly Apollo, are angered by Achilles' mistreatment of Hector's body. Apollo, who favors the Trojans, becomes determined to bring about Achilles' downfall. The stage is set for the final act of Achilles' life, as the forces of fate and divine intervention converge to bring about his death. The role of Paris and Apollo. Paris, the Trojan prince whose abduction of Helen sparked the Trojan War, plays a crucial role in Achilles' death. Though Paris is not a warrior of Hector's caliber, he is skilled with a bow and arrow. Guided by Apollo, the god of archery and prophecy, Paris becomes the instrument of Achilles' demise. Apollo, who has long supported the Trojans, intervenes directly in the conflict. He knows Achilles' weakness and ensures that Paris' arrow finds its mark. In some versions of the myth, Apollo himself guides the arrow to Achilles' heel, while in others, he simply empowers Paris to deliver the fatal shot. Regardless of the specifics, the involvement of Apollo underscores the aftermath of Achilles' death. Achilles' death is a devastating blow to the Greek forces. His loss leaves a void that no other warrior can fill, and the Greeks are plunged into mourning. The Trojans, emboldened by the death of their greatest enemy, rally and press their advantage. However, the Greeks are determined to honor Achilles and ensure that his legacy endures. A fierce battle erupts over Achilles' body, as both the Greeks and Trojans seek to claim it. The Greeks, led by Ajax and Odysseus, manage to recover Achilles' body and bring it back to their camp. There, they hold a grand funeral in his honor, complete with elaborate rituals and games. The funeral pyre burns for days, and the Greeks mourn the loss of their greatest hero. The fate of Achilles' armor, one of the most poignant episodes following Achilles' death, is the dispute over his armor. The armor, forged by the god Hephaestus, is a symbol of Achilles' greatness and is highly coveted by the surviving Greek heroes. Ajax and Odysseus both claim the right to inherit the armor, leading to a bitter rivalry. The Greeks hold a contest to determine who is most deserving of the armor. Odysseus, known for his cunning and eloquence, presents a compelling case and is awarded the armor. Ajax, devastated by the loss and feeling dishonored, descends into madness. In his despair, he takes his own life, adding another layer of tragedy to the aftermath of Achilles' death. The legacy of Achilles. Achilles' death marks the end of an era, but his legacy endures. He is remembered not only for his unparalleled skill in battle but also for his humanity, his flaws, and his capacity for both rage and compassion. His story serves as a reminder of the complexities of heroism and the inevitability of fate. Achilles' life and death also highlight the themes of glory and mortality that are central to the Trojan War. His choice to live a short but glorious life, rather than a long but uneventful one, reflects the values of the heroic age. His vulnerability, symbolized by his heel, underscores the idea that even the greatest heroes are not invincible. Conclusion. The death of Achilles is a moment of profound significance in the Trojan War and in Greek mythology as a whole. It marks the end of the war's greatest hero and sets the stage for the eventual fall of Troy. Achilles' demise, brought about by a combination of human action and divine intervention, serves as a powerful reminder of the fragility of life and the inevitability of fate. Through his life and death, Achilles embodies the ideals and contradictions of the heroic age. His story continues to resonate, offering timeless lessons about the nature of heroism, the power of fate, and the enduring impact of our choices. The fall of Achilles is not just the end of a warrior, it is the end of an era, a moment that encapsulates the tragedy and grandeur of the Trojan War. You are welcome to Mythical Journey, where we delve into the captivating. From the Olympian gods to the mischievous tricksters of folklore, we'll journey through different mythologies, examining their impact on art, literature, and even our own lives. We'll explore the symbolism, analyze the archetypes, and discover how these age-old stories continue to resonate with us today. Join me as we unravel the threads of myth, uncovering the wisdom and wonder that lie beneath the surface. Subscribe to Mythical Journey, and let's embark on this extraordinary adventure together. New videos every week.